So we're talking movies. We're talking dark. Let's go to the Black Phone, guys.
Yeah, let's do it. So first, Mike, what we were all pretty excited for this film, and I think it delivered. What do you guys think?
Mike,
Yeah.
I think you were pretty hyped about it. What do you think?
Yeah, Mike actually. It was the summer of
The
Hawk,
summer of
right?
Hawk, the year of the Hawk.
Yes.
The year of the Hawk.
The year of the Hawk, baby.
Yeah.
It's the year of the Hawk. I mean, most things we discuss today will involve a member of the Hawk dynasty.
Oh,
right?
I love the Hawk's now older man groggly voice he has.
Yeah.
He's got like a real just kind of voice going now.
I think he's just using his real voice, and that he just recently stopped using his like Brat Pack voice. That he had a higher pitched voice that he was using to stay in touch with like the roots of Ethan Hawke. But now he's so fucking over that shit, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He's hitting the Michael Keaton level in my mind.
All right, so like just like quick, I don't know, what did you think? Fresh out the theater, first thoughts. How did you feel?
I mean, so first thing, I love that the first act did not really have like, it was all just pressure building. I loved that.
Yeah.
I wanted more character development from Hawke. The Grabber was a great character, but everyone else was developing his character through them. And I think that had a really great impact, but I just wanted to see behind the curtain a little bit more. And almost just because the character was being portrayed so well, that I felt like if we got a little bit of a moment that was exposed to that character, that we would walk away with a more complex relationship to him than we ended up walking away with. I love the performance. I love all the individual performances, but I felt that the bad guy was promised a lot more in the previews than was delivered on the movie.
I 100% agree with that. I feel like the trailers for this, someone was asking about it at work, and I think the trailers are a little misleading.
Yeah.
I think you going in, you think it's Ethan Hawke's movie, and it's not. It's not the Ethan Hawke movie. He's great in it. Every scene he's in, but I think it's fair to say a lot of his scenes are in the trailer. You know, I think my beef with the movie, I think it has a really satisfying opening build. Love the first 20 minutes. I think it's got a really satisfying, great conclusion. But I thought in the middle, it kind of got away from itself. I feel like it couldn't decide if it was a movie about a serial child murderer or if it was about ghosts, you know? And I felt like you had those two narratives kind of back and forth.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a single character that represents exactly the issue that you're speaking to, and that's the Grabber's brother. It doesn't make any goddamn sense contextually in the narrative as a thing that can exist in that world. You can't be obsessed with the case, live in the house where the kids are being buried and across the street from the house where they're being kept. At least they didn't sell me enough on his stupidity before that. We just met him in that context where he was kind of like put down by the cops.
Yeah.
And we were meant to feel sorry for that. Like, I think that beat around the middle of the movie is very representative of some sort of choices that they had to make to truncate some of the character development and fit this into a specific time frame that they had to get it into.
I agree with that. And I think to your point earlier where you were talking about not getting enough of the Grabber, I feel like that's intentional, isn't it? Right? Because anytime you make a horror film, and this movie right out the gate, it's got one important factor: iconic mask. Iconic mask is going to get you over as a series, right?
Tom Savini mask. Tom
Savini mask. Great gimmick with the removable mouths and stuff like that. Love it. That's awesome. But I think that if your slasher movie is a hit, the next step is prequel. So prequel always is going to give us the backstory to the killer, right?
Yeah.
We're going to build that. So I think maybe revealing not a lot about that character is intentional.
I feel the same way. Yeah, the movie is doing well. They're making a sequel. They're already working on it. Joe Hill has actually started writing it, right? Like in response.
Did you know
to the
Joe
movie
Hill is
doing so
Stephen
well.
King's son?
Yep.
I was watching the movie the whole time, and I was like, "This feels like a Stephen King movie," and I looked it up, and it's his son.
Yeah, I love that. It's his first like major movie. He's had some other things that have gotten adapted and not been super successful. And he's actually involved a lot more in the press with this one, where the team, the Blumhouse team, is putting him over as Stephen King's son, right?
Got to
Like,
build your own stars, man.
taking the WWE approach there, man. They're going to build a Charlotte Flair out of him, and he's going to have some Stranger Things type series on Netflix in 3-5 years.
Wow.
From the son of Stephen
Yeah.
King, writer
Yeah.
of Misery.
Dude, they're leaning right into it. Like, he looks like young Stephen King. He's got the beard gimmick. He's got the glasses gimmick. He's got the shaggy hair gimmick. I had no idea that was his son that wrote that. Wow. He is the chosen one.
I mean, and so you think about it from that context, right? Like you've got a Tom Savini mask, you've got the son of Stephen King, you've got a displaced Marvel director, and you've got Ethan Hawke who could give no more fucks. And like, to me, that feels like a really good time, and I think it was. And there were two scenes for The Grabber that were not in any of the trailer material that really stood out for me in the movie. The first one being the first time that he's trying to play Naughty Boy, and he's sitting there in the chair with the belt.
Oh,
and
man, yeah.
As a viewer, you're connecting Hawk with his father and Finney with Hawk, and the whole system is kind of represented in your mind just from that single image of the frowny mask that you're seeing for the first time, with the belt draped over his leg and Finney running back down and not even daring to challenge it. And the other one is when he lies about his name and he steps out of the shadows, and again he's got the frowny mask. I think they saved the frowny mask. That was like the thing that they decided would not be trailerable.
That's like the only thing they didn't show. I gotta say, that was probably the biggest reveal as far as Ethan Hawke's gimmicks.
Yeah. To me, the film, I loved it. It just kept dancing. Like, people who wanted to go see it and were unsure, and someone was saying, "Oh, I don't really like those child abduction type movies, 70s." And I was like, this movie was a dance, but if Silence of the Lambs was dancing with The Sixth Sense. And it's just like, it felt so, and it had that 70s grime to it, which I thought was great. I mean, 80s is fun, but 70s always has that grimy feel that it has to it. But you're right, for being a somewhat supernatural elements, it was still pretty grounded in its supernatural elements, and I think that helped it.
I don't know that the trailer revealed anything supernatural, did it? I feel like that was just a swerve on the audience.
I mean, it showed that he would answer the phone and someone would be on the phone.
Yeah.
So you knew that, and you knew that the sister was like kind of connected psychically to this. You didn't know how deep a part of the narrative that would actually be, like, out in the open. So the context, I think, was set to be very firm physical horror with an added supernatural layer for the hero, not for the villain.
Yeah. And they went to that 70s gimmick of, when you had these serial killers, they had these names. And what a great name. Like, what a petrifying name that you just call him the Grabber. That's really all it is. There's like nothing special, but when you say that, it has that grime and it has that sense of danger for the kids back when there was no cell phones and there was no GPS and a family app that tracks where everybody is. So when somebody disappeared, they could be right in the same neighborhood and you would never know it. I mean, she's riding around on her bike trying to find her, brother after the dream she had. They were right there living his most terrifying experience. So to me, again, for being the supernatural swerve, it was pretty grounded in that terrifying feeling that they could be locked 3 basements down from your house and you would have no idea.
Do you guys know? So two things. First thing, do you guys know the story of how Blumhouse actually asked Derrickson to direct this?
No,
I haven't heard it.
Okay. So that'll go first then. So what he ended up doing was Derrickson was at home and he heard a phone ringing somewhere in the house. And so he went to investigate to find the phone, went down into his basement, found a black phone that was installed on his wall, answered the phone, and Bloom was on the other side, and told him, I installed this to ask you if you wanted to do this movie, The Black Phone. Gave him some context for what it was. And so his entry into that world was this weird supernatural appearance of this phone in his own space. And so when you're talking about this as a universe builder, I think that that's the thing that's going to actually carry through. That the grabber isn't necessarily going to be the thing that we see a lot more of in the future, the way that we will here. I think we're actually going to move forward from here, and the black phone itself will become a supernatural entity that manifests itself in certain places where this kind of there's a backlog of spirits that need to connect to somebody, right? Like think about the way that the video camera works in Sinister, capturing those darkest moments. And I think he's probably going to head in that similar direction with the black phone actually being the core of this.
I didn't even think about that, but I think you're right.
They definitely want to franchise it somehow.
Oh, yeah. There's no way
Did you catch
don't.
Blumhouse's new logo?
Hell yeah, Marvel-ass logo.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, check out all these franchises we got. We got Halloween, The Purge, Sinister. They're all, just line them all up.
Dude, it's funny when I was having that awkward elevator conversation at the Return of the Living Dead screening is when I got Mike's text of like, hey, look at the new Blumhouse logo. And he said that exactly. Does this mean we are going to get that promised, shared universe with all their brands that they have? Which take my money right now.
Bro, nobody does it better. Blumhouse is just cranking out franchises like nobody's business. I mean, they have some misses, but I would say they've got they're shooting like 65% from the field.
Yeah.
And so franchises.
Couldn't they just do Cabin in the Woods 2 and actually use all of their actual franchises as the things that could come through, and that would basically be a universe combiner?
I'm going to drop a Jim Cameron on this one. How about this? Cabins in the Wood.
Cabins in the Woods.
That's perfect.
Cabins in the Woods.
Sign me up. Take my money right now. Oh, wow.
But, I mean, beyond all of that, the kids do an incredible job, right?
Oh, my God.
I think there's some stars that are being made in this movie. We're going to see a whole lot more of them.
She was, I got to look up her name. She was phenomenal. What a phenomenal actor that little girl was. She was blowing me away that belt scene was pretty, when they were setting up the belt scene and her dad basically was whipping her with the belt he did in the 70s. The performance between the brother and sister were out of this world.
The end of that belt scene was improvised. The
really?
Father and the daughter improvised the last third of that scene.
Do you guys follow C. Robert Cargill? He lives here in Austin, the writer.
No, I don't.
He's been a collaborator with Scott Derrickson for a while, but he's a writer here in Austin. He's got an excellent Twitter feed, lots of inspirational writing stuff. He says, I think the script was really strong in this movie. I love the way they set up all the things that were going to come into play in the finale and how he beats the grabber and gets his escape. That was great. I loved all that. I love the setup.
Your arm is mint.
Your arm is mint from the very first scene. They're planting the seeds, right, for that big payoff, and I thought the payoff was great.
Yeah.
I just my only beef with this movie, I wish Joe Hill or whoever was scripting this out was I think it should have just picked a direction here. Do you want to be a child abduction movie or do you want to be a ghost movie? You can't be, and then simultaneously it's a ghost movie, also an ESP movie. So it's just like there's just so much going on.
Yeah.
I just thought it gave it a little lack of focus. But in the end, I thought it was a satisfying wrap up. The crowd kind of popped when he falls in the hole. Very mildly, reservedly, just light clap, golf clap. But I don't know. I liked it. I think I'm interested to see what they do with it next.
Yeah, I mean, where would you, Mario? Where would you take this to make the Black Phone 2 either, the aliens or the gremlins of the sequel world for this movie? What direction would you take it in? Would you go full camp and lean into that supernatural, or would you stick to the grit of the human experience aspect if you wanted to focus it more?
I mean, I think that me personally, I would rather focus on the true crime kind of grit stuff. I think the natural move here, the way you book it is you're going to do the grabber's backstory. Maybe show him as a boy. Maybe the grabber has because he hears the phone, right? So maybe he's got a story, a backstory that is intertwined with the Black Phone, the origin of the Black Phone. Right. I think we'll get that. And then you set that up. You set all that up. You build it. You build in, your backstory, and then you can jump into the sequel after that. And there's your trilogy, right?
I mean, the motherfucker dresses like the Babadook. So.
Oh yeah. I think that is the way to go. I think you basically, this is the meat of the sandwich, and the next two are a prequel and a sequel. In a way, it would be cool to do it simultaneously, and I'd like to see the phone turn into something along the lines of Frequency, where you can somehow tie it together, where the phone, obviously it's defying time and space as it is, going from physical to non-physical. I would like to see it defy time and making calls back to the past, if you can find ways to tie it into maybe the grabber is calling himself when he's the phone, he hears the phone ringing, and maybe it's him on the other end calling. Like, I'd like to see
maybe it's his victims again.
Yes.
Right? Like, it's his victims in another context, and they're trying to reach back to him to make him not victimized.
Exactly. I think that would be great to see that, to have, so that way you keep the phone, because throughout it, the phone is the spine of the story, and that way you can interweave the stuff that happens with the grabber character, and when you understand him a little bit more, like you said, is there, like, you're not going to really empathize with him in this. He just looks like the Son of Sam 70s killer, but like, what if you saw what turned him into that? Then would you start to empathize with a little bit more, and then will that change how you do it? And again, now you're going to broach, are you born evil, or is that evil nurtured? The nature versus nurture argument.
But I think Mike is right, though. I'll just say, Mike, your point is right. But the actual Black Phone is the Fonzie of this movie.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to see. Well, that's what you franchise out. It doesn't matter who's in the movie. It's just like, a couple gets married, moves into a house they buy, and there's a Black Phone in it.
There's a Black Phone in the basement.
I know what's coming.
If I were to go like super like campy horror sequel type of thing, I would actually inverse the structure that Jeff just laid out and make it so that upon dying, the grabber unlocks the power of the Black Phone, and the Black Phone becomes his weapon through which he can reach those he wishes to torment from beyond the grave.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I could see that.
So he appears like maybe he's making that Black Phone appear to the victim. He's making the Black Phone appear to the person in the real world, getting both of these narratives kind of colliding. where like the grabber is grabbing both of these souls and making them do kind of terrible things to each other at the end.
That's the Son of Santa approach, right? You know,
Yes,
his
exactly.
dog his dog told him to do it, right? Now when the
Right.
argument's going to be, there's a phone and I picked it up and they told me to do it and I couldn't resist.
The grabber told me to do it.